Did you have something to start off with?
I was going to quickly... We talked the other day about the etymology of, the word mock, I guess. Well, not etymology, just
M-O-C-K,
yeah. Yeah, M-O-C-K. And I ended up looking up Mockpod just out of interest in Google. And it's an alternative to an iPod that is non-iPod, non-Apple branded. So basically, yeah, everything else. We were just, we forgot to cheers.
Oh, yes.
Traditional whiskey. So, chin chin.
Chin chin, okay. Okay, so I wanted to start with the topic of travel because something from our direct experience is the climbing of Mount Fuji. And, okay, it's a thing that a lot of people have done. It's not anything like Everest, but we did it in very difficult conditions.
Yeah, I think it's actually the most climbed mountain in the world because it's traditionally very safe and not that difficult, but we're going to get into that.
If I set the context, there was typhoon season occurring, and there literally was a typhoon.
We had horrible trouble, and we were trying to find, like, our Japanese was not that great, so we were trying to find somebody who could help us, who could speak, decent enough English. And do you remember that old guy that we found, that lovely old guy in the post office?
We luckily went to the tourist office. And we managed to get some help, and they sent us off to some specialists who dealt with the huts. All the huts were closed. And there was only one that was open. There weren't even any public buses. We had to hire a taxi.
Yeah, it was really expensive as well.
You remember how much it cost?
Oh, was it like $75 or something?
It was very good. 75 Australian. It was 7,000 yen back in the day.
Yeah.
And look, that was pretty expensive.
But we bit the bullet because there was no other way to get out there.
There's no other way. So we thought it was hilarious. But, in that same year that we went, an American and his Japanese colleague actually died due to hypothermia. So definitely we were up against it a little bit, and
it was a pretty damn hard climb.
Do you have any other recollections about the experience?
Yeah, I remember buying the most expensive bottle of water that we've ever bought.
That's right. It was $20 Australian.
Yeah, it was like $20 bottle of water.
And that was for like a 600ml plastic bottle of water.
It was insane, but we were thirsty.
Yeah, when you're up in the mountain, you haven't got much choice. 3,000 meters up. The whole mountain is 3,776 meters. Yeah, we bought 2 digital video cameras. So this is the age before, I guess, it's only a couple of years ago, but it was the age before hard disk drive memory. Yeah. And it was all recorded on mechanical DV tape.
Yeah, I think, that was crazy. And I think I remember actually even taking out batteries and putting it next to our chest and stuff to keep them warm.
Yeah, what was really tough was, look, it took about, I guess, 9 hours all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
And, in that period, we did have a hut stopover of a couple of hours. And, obviously got right into some broth and soup.
Oh, and isn't it amazing when you physically taxed like that feeling of like that bowl of was it soup and ramen and stuff?
Yeah,
that was the most delicious thing I think I've ever eaten because of that exact experience. Like when your body's just craving it and feels like it's dying, and you get endless amounts of this soup. That was a good night.
Yeah, it's crazy because you're right. The nourishment that you have at that point, all we had was like dried fruit, I believe. And
we had like dried bananas or something. They were terrible.
They were delicious.
Do you think they were delicious?
On the way up, they were.
Yeah,
upon reflection, they're probably not so good. But I think it was really tough because also I must say I wasn't exactly the fittest, and at about 3,300, it's about 300 meters from the top, I started getting a little bit of altitude sickness, like generally like a bit of a brain swell. I felt a thumping headache like I've never felt before. So it really drained me in terms of getting to the top. You had no such problems though?
No, I definitely thought you were having issues at some point. And afterwards I ended up posting a picture on Facebook, sorry. Of the caldera of the volcano, which is essentially the top of the Mount Fuji.
Oh yeah,
because it is a volcano.
Yeah.
And there's a rock that's in the center of the image, and basically it ends up casting this massive phallic shadow to one side. It's
yeah,
awful.
that was funny. I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
It's
there
awful.
were quite a few interesting things up the top that happened. One thing was we chose to hold up a flag. Now, we didn't have a Japanese flag with us, and we wanted to sort of honour the mountain, if you like. And we went to the markets, and the only flag that was available was one with the distinctive red sun, however, not with the plain white background, with the streaks of red sun rays. That
Yeah, I thought it was very Karate Kid-ish or something. It reminded me of that, so I ended up buying it. Because it's funny how hard it is to buy a Japanese flag in Japan.
simple red dot on a white
Yeah,
background.
it's crazy, but we couldn't actually find one.
So
this is
what
we ended
we-
up with. It was a surplus store, by the way, so this probably
Yeah.
leads you to the rest of the story.
And what ended up happening was we realised later on that it was the Japanese military flag.
Yeah, I don't know how did we find that out.
We raised
but-
that at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
We didn't know at the time, but
I actually took out that flag and showed that gentleman, and I clenched it in my fist, and I looked at him with wild, crazy eyes and a big smile. And he looked at me, and he's with also wide eyes, but not quite a smile. I think just he had a face of confusion.
yeah. Not to go on too much longer before the next topic, but going down, how did you feel going down?
Going down was great. It was so much fun. There was a massive, really long, I don't even know how long, but it felt like about 1,500 meter scree slope. For anyone who doesn't know what a scree slope is, it's like a area of mountain that's usually covered in this really fine type of kind of gravel almost. Like it's just little rocks, obviously, but it's actually really, really fun to go down though. Like, so I ended up tucking my pants into my shoes, and I had really sturdy hiking shoes and stuff. So I was just, they call it, I think they call it scree, like skiing or something like that.
But yeah, it worked out pretty well. I know that the first thing we did when we got back to the hotel was just lie down in our beds before even showering for a couple of hours. It was so exhausting.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and staying on the topic of Japan, let's talk about the food in Japan. What did you...
One thing about food though, quickly about going to places like Japan, how did you find the airplane food? Did you like the...
I love airplane food.
Yeah, me too. I really,
Yeah.
because most people don't really like it, but I love it. Why do you like it?
Well, I like it because I think it's the right portion, firstly, and often when you're left to your own devices, or I tend to overeat perhaps.
It is good portion size.
I like the fact that they can be eaten in a very small, confined space. There's something about that. Where you don't need,
It's forced. You have to eat it.
well,
in this.
yeah, you don't need a lot of elbow room because we fly economy.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I like is that it comes to you at a time when, to be honest, on a plane, there's not a lot of pleasurable stuff going on. I mean, you can watch a movie, you can have a chat, but it's really lovely to have this, I guess, service delivered to you, this food, service. And
I really like it too, and I mean, it's clearly like a certain type of food. It's not,
Is anything
from a five-star restaurant, but in
that
terms
you
of-
particularly like? About
I just love how they how the cuisine crosses over when you go from like your country to other countries. So like I remember Japan in particular, like they served us a Japanese curry, and we're like, oh
yeah.
wow, we didn't even know Japan had curries. That's cool. This is a little Japanese introduction, So
Yeah, I fell in love with Japanese curry over there. It's still
Yeah.
my favourite kind of curry. Apparently, the recipe is sort of based on a UK formula. So it's that idea of making like combining the powder, the oil, the flour, and they make it like a roux, and they stew meat and vegetables with it. So there's a
what's a roux?
it's a French term, and basically what it ends up happening is you get this sauce that's really simmered and fully thickened. So as opposed to a lot of other curries in the world.
Yeah. Hang on, let's go back to roux for a second. So nice skipping of the roux, but no, I'll tell you what a roux is. It's very simple. A roux is when you put butter in a pan and then you just add flour, and it's like you cook the butter in the flour and then you end up with a thick paste. And usually it's used for
It's a powder, flour, and oil kind of combination, or
well,
fat. Or,
butter, fat and butter and flour and fat and flour. So, but the idea with it is that then you could make, if you were making like a white sauce, for example, you'd make a roux and then you pour some milk in and then you end up with white sauce. You put in some cheese and stuff.
Back to omurice.
Yeah, but back to omurice. Omurice is awesome.
That's Omurice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's different spellings of it maybe, but that was the one we saw, and yeah, we really like this idea. There was a nice, I remember a shop with this guy in the window, and he had this, I think he had a wok, and it was pretty cool watching him do it, because he ended up cooking all this rice in this wok, and And then he put the rice in this little bowl, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then he put out this massive omelette, and yeah, smashed the rice over it, and ended up folding it with a nice little, tool.
Yeah.
And it ended up this perfect little bullet-shaped omelette.
It's great.
And then covered in this beautiful, just as simple tomato sauce stuff. It was delicious.
It's a great dish because of the fact that, you don't often get these in Japanese eateries, but in Japan it's quite widespread, and especially at Western type diners, you have that, and it's just a nicely presented dish to have this fried rice wrapped in this omelette, with, like you said, with the ketchup on top.
And the other dish I remember pretty clearly, I don't know if you had the same experience, but the takoyaki. Do you remember the takoyaki?
Takoyaki's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful dish.
And do you remember watching them make it?
Yeah. I do actually.
Yeah, because I thought it was really cool. Like watching them sort of make it in. They've got like all these customized, like really big trays and stuff where they can pour so much batter together and then just do it all at once.
Yeah.
And
takoyaki being the octopus balls.
Yeah, the octopus balls. Yeah, with the batter sort of around them. And I remember because they put traditionally they put heaps of bonito flakes on top, and when they bring it to you, we were looking at it. Do you remember what it looked like?
Yeah, they danced because of the heat.
Yeah.
It made them fold and warp.
Yeah.
So you had these flakes that were essentially in movement around this
exactly right.
ball of flour.
It reminded me of like almost flames flickering, or it felt like this thing was alive. It was really weird. I was just gonna go, what the hell is that?
Is there anything you think we missed eating over there?
I felt like we could have eaten more sushi. I tell you what, I really would have loved to do is have you ever heard of omakase?
No, what is that?
Omakase is trust the chef. I think I said that right. I don't know. I've got some students from Japan. Maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But it's trust the chef. So you go to these places where you just sit there at the little bar and you don't order anything. They just make everything for you, and they make this little course of sushi from what was caught that day.
Sounds like a degustation.
Like a degustation, yeah. But it's a very personable sort of thing, and yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, I really felt like I missed out on trying pufferfish, which is the fugu.
Oh, yeah.
I really would have liked to have tried that. Look, there are different statistics out there. Like, there was one 10-year study, apparently there was a fatality rate of 6.8%.
That's pretty high.
Over 10 years, but only one of those was from a restaurant.
Okay.
So that's something I read on the net.
So if you eat it from a restaurant, you're good, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. I would love to have tried it. Do you know why people are so fascinated by eating pufferfish, the fugu?
Well, I just imagine it's because of the fact that they can kill you.
No, it's because they leave a little bit of toxin. So the idea is the chef's meant to leave just enough. Obviously, it's not going to harm you, but it creates a little bit of a, let's say, a drug-like experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of the toxin in it.
So that's why people eat fugu?
Oh, that's apparently what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would like to try that.
Okay. Are there any other foods you want to comment on about from Japan?
Oh, the only other thing I remember with it pretty clearly is, I mean, I think we could have eaten more ramen.
Yeah,
I don't know.
sure.
I always think there's room for more ramen, you know?
Yeah,
in
for
your
sure.
life.
Ramen's great. I mean, udon. I mean, chicken karagi. I love karagi. What about okonomiyaki? Do you like that?
Okonomiyaki, yeah, they're delicious.
Yeah, and there's just so many dishes. Obviously, gyoza, miso soup. You can't get enough of that food. But yeah, speaking about food, I want to introduce the next segment, odd things, and one of the things that I found odd recently is the idea of how people consume chocolate blocks. Now, when I mean a chocolate block, I'm talking about, like a big family size share block.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend and he was saying that he likes to break every little piece and then serve it to, whoever's in the room.
Are we talking about like smash it, or are we talking about break it nicely?
They have designated lines often in a big block of chocolate. So my friend was talking about perhaps breaking all those and then allowing people to just take it piece by piece. But I thought that I consume it differently because I only break off what I need. Now it may be one piece or maybe even an entire row. How do you eat it?
I usually break off like if I'm feeling like like I want to control myself, I would break off like one row and break it in half. And then smash both pieces within about 15 seconds.
I think it's easier to just grab a row because you don't get those funny sort of unclean breaks.
Yeah.
It's much easier just to break a row off, I find, but then you eat it like a whole candy bar.
But if you're with, I find if you're with friends or with a group of people, let's say more than two that are hungry. I think if you break off like maybe 2 to 4 rows and just break them up a little bit, and it encourages a bit of partaking.
Yeah, and what do you think stats reveal? Like I looked this up on the internet.
Oh right. Like in terms of what people actually do.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon most of them do it the way we do it, one or two rows at a time.
Well, in fact, what I found was just one poll. It's a random poll of 265 people.
Okay.
It revealed that 66% break up the pre-cut pieces and eat them one by one. So in other words,
that's a lot.
Yeah, what my friend does is quite common. What I do is less common, which is breaking it only as I need it.
See, seeing something like that, I'd be thinking that the greater majority there, or some level of sociopath.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting idea. But look, I just think, look, for me, I find it hard not to eat a whole block when I buy it, so I just try not to eat. I try not to buy whole blocks.
Yeah, nice. Okay, that's a pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. I like that theory. Any other odd things you've learned about recently?
Yeah, I was just listening to another podcaster talk about Dunbar's 150 people. Have you heard about that theory?
I've heard a little bit about it. I've heard the tree trunk version, rather than canopy version.
Okay. Do you want me to give you a rundown to refresh, or?
I'll tell you the version that I know. This is the tree trunk version.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the tree trunk version stems from the idea about. I remember in class I used to talk about this, where we were saying that there's people that say that this is actually the people being Dunbar, saying that there's only room, like you only have the ability to have 5 very closely connected people in your life. And I actually never knew that the thing went too much further until read about it recently, and this was called, I think, Dunbar's layers, where basically, so you'd have this layer of people where you'd have 5 people that were really closest to you, then you'd have another layer where they're not so close, and maybe that'd be, I think it was 10, and then the next layer was something in the order of, I don't know, maybe 50 or something like that, or maybe it was like 5, 15, 50, about that. So 5 people really close, 15 people semi-close, 50 people less close than that, and then another 100 people less close than that. So it ended up being 150 people that were in your life. And I think he had some really nice way of describing it. He was describing it as something like that if they were standing in a bar, you wouldn't feel stupid about interrupting them and joining them for a drink and catching up on old times. And that was how he limited that group of people.
Yeah, you've got to be able to have a conversation with them that's comfortable and where you can go into territory that you would with friends.
Yeah.
Just how many people can you actually, keep in touch with? Because the theory goes that, a tweet's a tweet or whatever, or Facebook message can be something that's superficial, although it can be deep as well.
Well, I think most people that I've ever asked, like I haven't asked that many people the question, I guess, but I've asked a lot of students and I've asked a lot of friends, but how many close people do they have in their lives, and usually the answer is less than 5.
Yeah, I think that this general idea that you can't be close through digital media, it depends on a few things. If you've had enough personal time with the friend, then you could easily, I guess, go into messaging and talk about quite heavy topics, and remain quite close that way. On the other hand, there are other people who just Facebook friend and you don't ever say much and just read each other's posts, and I guess you just like the posts, right?
Yeah,
so
that's what you do.
Yeah, so basically, do you agree with the theory? Do you think that?
Sorry, I'm very squeaky today.
Yeah. So again, do you agree with the theory? Do you think that you can only be close to a certain limited number of people?
I certainly think it's true in many ways, because time just dictates things these days, and if we had all the time in the world to maintain social connections or do things collectively and collaboratively together, I guess every day, then it'd be much easier to keep those connections. But the reality is in life that people go to work. That's the main thing with it. But in any case, so I've been introduced to op shopping.
Now, can I just
op
stop you
shopping
there?
is?
Yeah, op shopping is an Australian New Zealand term. So opportunity shop, or what is commonly called in US and Canada a charity store or a thrift store.
Yeah, they Macklemore or something made us.
Yeah, they basically resell things. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So anyway, but I used to get dragged along to these op shops. I would go on these little missions. So, for example, like, I'd try to search for more training shirts, to do just work out in and stuff.
I see about like sport clothes.
Yeah, sort of sports clothes, and ended up finding a couple, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Buy these little $8 shirts, $9 shirts, sort of, not really being that worn, and I don't really care about, the fact that it's secondhand. I like it. It's good. It's like recycling. It's
I would buy all things secondhand, except probably shoes.
Yeah, have I bought shoes?
I think you have.
Have I? No, I don't think I've bought shoes. But I've bought a lot of other things, a lot of pants that are doing stuff.
I'm okay with everything else.
Yeah, but I mean, look, there's a line. I do see undies and stuff in those shops, and I do see like,
undies the no-go zone.
Yeah, I really don't understand it, and it's not even undies that look new. It's like undies that look like I've been worn 100 times.
What if you saw a $100 Versace pair of boxers, and they were selling it for $20?
Oh, see, is
would
it
you go
tempting?
for it?
Like,
It's right. It's exactly your size. Would
Would
you get it?
It's just I just don't think it's not even risk, but I just don't think it's worth the reward, so to speak. Like, it's what are you going to get from it? Oh, I have Versace underwear. Wow, that's great.
Value, high quality, and at a low price. So here's the thing: where do you draw the line? Like, let's say you can buy 10 shirts that are under $20, and they, heavily discounted.
Yeah.
Like, they're in great quality. You could use them, perhaps rotate through them throughout a work week.
Yeah.
But, like, where does it end? Like, if you keep buying shirts like that, aren't you going to end up essentially maybe hoarding?
Yeah, 100%. And I think hoarding is something that's a huge problem. And again, like you said, linked to minimalism. But having, I guess the way we've approached it recently is that whatever the amount of shirts that you want to have in your life, let's say you've got 15 shirts you want to have,
Yeah.
right? And you end up doing it in a very simple way. You just got to sacrifice a shirt for every shirt that you buy. Give it to someone else. It's very
something
simple.
I learned, this is a life lesson I got from a very successful person in Poland. I had a client, and he said for every one newly acquired item, he would dispense with 3 items that he no longer used.
Oh, 1 to 3 ratio.
Yeah, now
that's a good ratio.
I really thought that was a great way to stay, to keep in that minimalist sort of mindset. And obviously those 3 items wouldn't be thrown away. They'd be given to charity bins. Reused. But I've taken that on board, and so every time I acquire one new item of clothing, I try to dispense with 3 that I no longer use. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It leads me to this new segment. Now, people can choose to leave it or I guess listen to it. It's something we're going to put on the tail end of.
Just listen to it.
Okay, well, it's about mixed martial arts.
Yeah,
we're both aficionados of MMA, and
not MMA, just of martial arts in general. But yeah,
and recently Robert Whittaker, an Australian, became the interim middleweight champion of the world.
He's really calm. He's really humble. But at the same time, he's really driven, and he's an absolute weapon. He's a champion.
But we ran into him luckily in Sydney.
So we were at a fitness show, right? And it was great. Like, we were just outside, and as you do as a fan, we were like, oh man, do we take a photo with Robert Whittaker? Like, can we ask him or what? And he's like, yeah, for sure. And so we went and asked him, and he was just the nicest guy.
He's lovely.
We had a little chat, and he was really, really keen on giving us a photo. He was encouraging us, and he really couldn't meet a nice guy, and so for him, and I actually remember asking him in particular, right? I said to him, so man, like, you're just gonna do this, man. You're so awesome. Like, you're doing all the right things. And he goes, man, that's the plan. Yeah. And what did he do? He followed his plan.
Yeah, he ended up being champ. Yeah. So we just met him just prior to his championship fight.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's happening at the moment is what is affectionately called Maymac, which is referring to Conor McGregor. versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. So Floyd Mayweather Jr. being the boxer, Conor McGregor being representative for mixed martial arts. So it's a really big thing of the moment because
so and this is like mainstream media stuff. This isn't like, oh, we're talking, it's only for the MMA fans or whatever. This is like, it's so much bigger, and obviously it's for most people, I think, hopefully it literally is the fight of the century. Like,
and at the time of speaking right now, it's 6 weeks away from the actual fight. And we keep bouncing back and forth about this particular point. Who knows about this? Well, I was going to say, can we create our own poll? So if anyone listens to this podcast now, can you just put in comments underneath in YouTube? Look, I know Mayweather, I know McGregor, or I know both.
It'd be really good,
I'm
just
curious.
Well, you can make it simple. Just write, if you know Mayweather, write May. If you know McGregor, write Mac.
Oh yeah.
And then if you know both, write Maymac.
Just quick tip at this stage of 6 weeks out, do you have any thoughts on who may win?
That's a good idea. Because
what's your instinct?
My instinct would be, I think, the fact that Conor's younger, Floyd's older, Conor's more innovative. I think he's probably going to be able to knock him out. What do you think?
Rather than give a prediction, I'll just say at this stage, I hope that McGregor wins. I think it'll be really good for the sport of mixed martial arts. I respect Floyd Mayweather as a great fighter, but hopefully McGregor wins within let's say the first 4 rounds. Did you have anything else today?
No, I don't really think so. That was delicious whiskey.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
I think a final comment on the whiskey. It was.
Well, I ended up having 2 glasses, so.
Japanese whiskey.
It was a good. Yeah, it was a nice little Japanese drop. It's a beautiful bottle. Like this, the way the bottle's designed, it's like this beautiful. I think I'll keep it afterwards.
Yeah, we might put a photo on Instagram later of the bottle.
Yeah, but it's quite lovely. But I will read what was on the. This is very generic, but listen to this. Specially selected for complexity and richness.
I think the complexity and richness in that drop of whiskey.
I think they're 2 very good adjectives to use.
To
describe that whiskey.
That's an apt description.
Two brothers at a microphone. Till next time.